Hello, Flavia. I'm very happy to have you here today, fellow Italian, to have a chat about your journey into biotech. So, Flavia, you are currently the director of product R&D at AskBio, but you actually joined the company when it was still called Synpromics, right?
That's
Before
right.
that, you spent quite a long time in academia. You did quite a few postdocs, I think 8 years in total across different institutions. So I want to start a conversation here. Could you give us an overview of your early career from your PhD in Rome, then moving straight to Scotland?
First of all, hi, nice to be here and thank you for inviting me. Yes, as you might infer from my very light Italian accent, I'm Italian and I'm from
Same
Rome,
here.
where I've studied for my bachelor, master, and PhD, which was already a journey in itself because I started thinking I wanted to have a career in neurophysiology, and I ended up being a biochemist. So after that experience, I got the burning desire to move abroad, and as you mentioned, I spent quite some time in different institutions in the UK, all of them. I moved to Dundee, then to Edinburgh, then to London, and then to Oxford. And for the entire span of my academic career, I worked on protein degradation in the context of cell cycle, mostly, but not only. And then I made the jump or the transition to Synpromics, which was a relatively small startup at that time, focusing on gene expression. And then Synpromics got acquired by AskBio, and here I am.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for the overview. And when you were still in academia, choosing a postdoc after a postdoc, was it because you wanted to specialize in a specific topic? What was the motivation behind finding the next project?
Yes, that's why I was underlying that I was working on protein degradation. During my PhD, I started working on the ubiquitin protein system, and I was a love at first sight. So all the following positions had that in mind. I wanted to stay in the field. The thing I liked the most about ubiquitination is its versatility as a post-translational modification that is at the crossroad of so many different pathways, and therefore being specialized on that was my ticket into many different research
Yeah.
areas.
Yes, absolutely. And during this process and this research that you did in academia, like were a particular moment or project or frustration that made you think, okay, now I want to try something different. I want to try doing research in industry. Or how did you come with that idea?
Yeah, not really. It's like in like a cheesy rom-com movie. I was completely blind to. I would have done anything to
Mhm.
stay in academia and do research on something I loved, and it was only when I actually was doing the postdoc I loved the most because the project was fantastic and we were getting good results, that I think I got the right distance between what I wanted and what I was doing, that made me realize that maybe I was having like a limited vision of not only what I could do, but what I could like, which is
Yeah.
probably more important. So yeah, I was in Oxford and I had this project, which was great. fantastic colleagues. And I've realized, okay, but like, what next? Now that I can stop and think rather than, just keep going, like, what
Yes,
next?
yes. How
So
did you
that
come
was it.
across this? How did you come across the opportunity in industry? Were you contacted by a recruiter or you actively looked for roles?
Yes, no, I wasn't looking. I was more dealing with the realization of, okay, if I want to do something different, where do I even start? Having been in academia for so long, and having also from like a very honest, to be honest with you, all my network was in academia. So also like, it was difficult to find a way in many ways, also practical, not to mention that the more specialized you get, in my mind, the narrower would have been to move, which turns out to be wrong. But I was contacted by a recruiter on LinkedIn. This is gonna make me feel very old, but it was like actually not a platform that wasn't as widely used as now, right? Back at that time. So I was also a little bit suspicious by the whole thing. Of course, like Italian stereotype, I guess. But, so I got contacted by this recruiter, and they were actually looking for. They had looked in my CV for like the tiniest detail rather than, they didn't contact me for ubiquitin proteasome system or protein degradation. They contacted me because in my CV on LinkedIn, I had mentioned that in one of my first postdocs, I had worked with lentiviruses. So he contacted me and said that Synpromics was looking for someone who was experienced, like not necessarily too experienced, but not too junior, and with a wider breadth of skill set. So that's how it happened.
Fantastic. And you joined Synpromics. That was a small company, more or less, at least at the time. You moved once again back to Scotland from Oxford, right? What were your thoughts during those early months in industry? Like, did you experience any cultural shock going from academia to startup environment?
I did. I have very fond memories of that period. I think I had a cultural shock. The cultural shock had some positive and negative elements. I'll start from the positive elements. It was great that we had enough funding to be comfortable that we could finish what we intended to start. That has always been an academia concern of mine, like everybody. It was also rather strange to be in a context where everybody had a precise function and tasks and responsibility, and the element that maybe was a little hard to come to terms with was that in academia you feel like you're part of a tribe, in the good and in the bad. Like, there's so much in common among all the researchers, postdocs, PhD students, and etc. In Synpromics, and I can say now in industry is not the same. Like, the motivations that bring people together are different, which is enriching, I feel, the culture, because you can interact with people that have a different opinion on what they're doing and why, which I found very refreshing in a way.
That's very interesting. That's an interesting point. And the next question is about something that I believe to be true for a long time, really, when I was still in academia. And I think it's a common theme amongst academics. And there is a common perception that if you transition into industry, it means that you are going to step away from doing exciting science, from having the flexibility also to set in your own research agenda, let's say, to be independent in your way to do research. So my question to you is, in your experience, as your role in biotech continue to engage you scientifically?
Yes, I actually feel more engaged than before because even though what's really fascinating about a research project is that you might hope to end up where you foresee the project going, but then it surprises you in the good and in the bad, right? So it's like wandering in the forest, finding your path, when instead projects that I've dealt with and I'm dealing with are extremely, structured, even
Yes.
platform projects that are not necessarily related to an indication, for example, are very structured, and there's timelines, there's like accurate or at least they should, accurate account of workload and resources. And the idea that you see from the very beginning the end of it, I find that really, really motivating. Is something that brings the best out of my maybe competitive attitude.
Yes.
So I'm like, challenge accepted. So I'm gonna
We
get
can
there. I'm
do
gonna
it.
get there. Exactly. So I like it.
Fantastic. Anna, could you tell us a little bit more about the different roles that you covered over the years in industry and how your position has evolved, particularly with all the changes around you, such as Synpromics, of course, being acquired by AskBio, which is a US-based company, but also which was acquired by Bayer, which is German. So, did you experience any difference in how to do science amongst those different acquisitions?
I'll start from the the comment about like the geographic aspect that you made. So I think that was something that academia really prepared me for. A very exciting aspect of working in academia, especially in the UK, which is the only reality I've experienced, is that you have the opportunity to meet people from everywhere, different languages, different cultures, different traditions, different way of interacting. So that made me very resilient and gave me the opportunity, the ability to understand what comes from culture, what comes from the individual instead. So I felt back home, in a way,
Yes.
being surrounded by people from everywhere and with headquarters in different countries. Regarding the roles that I cover, when I moved away from academia to industry, I had a scientist position, a senior scientist position. So wet lab at the bench. Then shortly after, I got the opportunity to apply for a higher role, which was head of biology, so had some line management in it. I was managing at some point 9 scientists. That was a big endeavor, going from managing students at best to managing scientists. This was a steep learning curve. If anything, I have to say that nothing in academia prepared me for that. So after that, all the other roles that I've covered are always the element of line management, which I actually think is something like like a passionate love story.
Yeah.
There are elements that I hate of it, and elements that I really, really love. So I can't actually imagine now my life without some level of line management that comes, which has together like workload planning, performance evaluation, but also mentoring, and I think is a very exciting aspect of my role.
Absolutely. And did you receive any support when you stepped in for the first time into management, or were you thrown to the wolves?
Well, kind of both. So the good thing was that my manager was aware that it would have been challenging, and offered often unsolicited advice, and I don't mean it in a negative. He could read the situation and come and provide advice or support. But also I think, and now in retrospective, I see his strategy. He wanted to throw me into the deep end because that would have been the fastest way to see if I could swim. So it was a combination of both.
Yeah. And what's your approach in managing young scientists, like to keep them excited, motivated about their own journey into industry? And also beyond technical skills, what are the qualities that you would look for when hiring, when recruiting new scientists, especially those that are coming straight from academia?
So in terms of motivation, I have different approaches. Somebody has just transitioned from academia, for example, or school, from university or from a postdoc, rather than people that have already had some experience in industry. And for the purpose of this conversation, I think you're more interested in knowing how I deal with people that come from maybe a postdoc. I tend to, when possible, to assign a number of tasks. I mean, I build my team having in mind resilience. So everybody needs to have some skill sets in order to then be, help out when needed, jump on a project when needs more resources, because maybe we have to push or we have a delay. But in all cases, when possible, I try to give each person ownership of a project, small or little, doesn't really matter, because I think that is something that you have in academia, is your entire reality. You have that project, you are the owner of that project, and going from that to not being the owner of anything might be really tough on some individual. I think then it gets a lot easier, like to the point that now, for example, I feel myself, I'm happy to jump in and out, help out different things, actually enjoy them more than being an owner of a single project at times. But I think that helps. And in terms of what I look for when we recruit, that's a big element that it depends on the project itself. So we look for specific skill set that suits the project at hand. But on a personal level, I really like to see in people some honesty also regarding this. Like, I'm curious, I want to do something different. These are my motivations, and that could be like, I love academia, but I would like some job security, for example. So I like a practical, I like to see in people a practical approach to both the challenge itself and the move to industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And also during your journey into industry, again, you stayed in Synpromics, then became AskBio, and it stays AskBio if acquired by Bayer. But did you experience anything different in these dynamics, also with your teams or collaborating with the other teams while the company was growing to something different. Now is, of course, is a clinical stage, a very large company.
I think what I can elaborate for hours is more regarding going from being employee 33, I think it was 33 at Synpromics, to even just when we were about 60 at Synpromics itself. I think small, medium, and big companies face different challenges, but some are common across.
Yeah.
I think what was really made different, my day-to-day reality was going from being like a very, very small, as I said, we were 30, so to anything above that, because
Yeah.
in a very small company or in a startup, that's the element of you want to thrive, and that's that element of hunger. That's how I would call it. That's an element of hunger that really brings the best out of people. That was different from what I have seen in academia, where the hunger is more about your project,
Yes,
your line of research, rather than a success for the team.
Yeah. Thank you. What would you say to a PhD or a postdoc who's curious about industry, specifically biotech startups, but is also worried that it may be not for them?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I'll answer by telling you what I would tell myself.
Yes.
When I finished my PhD, it did not even remotely cross my mind to explore industry. And I do wonder how much of that was because I was really passionate about research, like deeply passionate. And how much of that was because I had no clue. I had no exposure at all. To me, big pharma were like evil overlords. I wanted to make a lot of money or something along those lines. So I was young and, deeply inexperienced. And I often think that if I had a little bit more exposure to the vast variety that industry means, that like a startup is not a biopharma, a biotech is not a manufacturing company. Industry is so much and so different. If I had been exposed a little bit more to that, I do wonder if I hadn't tried to get a job in industry, or perhaps more realistically, a placement.
Yeah.
And in fact, throughout then my more senior career, I always very interested in placement in industry, because I think that's a great opportunity to figure out what you want. And what you want when you get out of a PhD is not necessarily what you want after 3 postdocs. Look at me. So so that's also something that people have to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking back, what would you think that academia prepared you well, or what it did not prepare you well at all?
So it gave me the greatest resilience, I think. That's like, the constant feeling that the constant fear that didn't really matter how much I was putting into it. I could have been scooped, for example. That was my greatest fear. This financial instability. I've always been lucky because my contracts were never shorter than, I think, 2 years. And, with other people I know had like maybe 6 months maternity cover or something. So that level of, you're constantly high level cortisol, I think that gives you like high resilience. And as I said before, being exposed to different culture, and being exposed to like just so many clever people. You are surrounded by intelligent, motivated people. I mean, not 100% of the time, but the vast majority of people are super motivated, and they're all very, very intelligent and clever. It's a pleasure to have a conversation about topics that don't even, are not even related to your line of research. What it didn't prepare me for was the mindset that something that would be super interesting is not always necessarily what you need to pursue. In my mind, that if my project was opening on a side project that would be super cool for understanding a pathway mechanism and become a publication, I was always like a dog squirrel, like like just keeping it in my peripheral vision, while I towards the end of my academic career and now realize that deviates in a way the attention to and can make more difficult to achieve a goal. So I feel that is something I had to learn
to focus your efforts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. And I got still a couple more questions to end our conversation. The first one is about what still excites you most about working in biotech today.
So I am very lucky because I am in R&D. So that's a level of we call it platform and product. So there's always like the space to get the creative juices flowing. But at the same time, there's this infrastructure, that's the corporate objectives that keep it focused, as I was saying before. What I really, really like, motivates me, is the idea that the end goal is a tangible product, in my case, that could really help someone. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's the truth. Because when I was in academia, I often thought, I'm going to deconvolve this extremely complicated process, and then this will open up to investigation applied to cancer. My main interest was cancer at that time, but the distance between my bench and the patient with cancer was so big that I couldn't see beyond the horizon. And that is something that now I have and I can almost grasp with my hand, and that really, really is the best feeling.
Fantastic. And the last question is something that I am always asking. Is there anything that you would do differently if you could go back in time?
I think I would move to industry a little earlier. Not in terms of age. But at the not too much early. I'm very happy of my path in academia, and I would do it all over again. At the same time, I've realized that if that wasn't my path, I wonder if I would have come to the same conclusion. It's like a sliding door sort of thing. I think we are meant to go through certain experiences in order to become the people that fall into place with the opportunity. So overall, I regret nothing. That's the short answer.
That's brilliant. And well, thank you for the insightful conversation. And it was a real pleasure to have you here. Thanks, Flavia.
Thank you so much. You're very welcome. And it was so nice talking to you as well.
Thanks.